Welcome to our all things hip related month, and I will probably revisit this area of the body slash chakra more than a few times over the course of the next coming months. But this month, March 2022, there's a reason that I chose the depths and also the intimacy that lies within the hips. And the pelvis itself is known in the yoga world as kind of the seat of the heart. And for many reasons, if you were to study energy lines and where they run through different areas of the body, when you open your hips to a certain degree, right, the largest joints in the body, when you create more mobility and freedom there, how you feel is going to be more kind of expressive, expansive. Likely you're going to feel more accessible for other people, because your body has literally opened an area that is quite stagnant. And I'll explain a little bit about why this is. So the hips being one of the largest joints in the body, the largest joints in the body, when we are doing a yoga practice, we are externally rotating, we're internally rotating, we're often doing back bends, which lengthens the psoas, and we're doing our forward folds, which release the low back to some very deep layers that often we aren't moving. And when you look at the structure of the spinal column, generally speaking, the lower down, the denser the area. So there's the bigger one, the vertebrae are, and the fascial tissue and all of the network of sensory nerves that are running out from the spinal column itself tend to be a lot more dense lower down. And the reason that this is, as you look up the spinal column, the bones get smaller, the spaces between the vertebrae get slightly bigger unless you've had an injury, right? So there's a more delicate aspect to moving up the spine. Down at the bottom of the spine, we house what, in the yoga world, they consider the serpentine or the kundalini energy. There's a lot of information that I could say about what the serpentine or the kundalini energy is, but loosely speaking, it's like watering or stimulating the top of the tree. If we were to just think about neck work, that's going to open a certain area of the spine. If we were to go to the roots, which was the bottom of the spine, then we have a very completely different experience of the overall system that is our spinal column, right? So the spine and the brain make up the central nervous system. The central nervous system is in charge of so many things. It's even in charge to some degree of regulating the autonomic nervous system. And because yoga is not just science, and it's not just mysticism. It's a merging of the understanding that the body is an energetic being, but that it is governed by certain laws, rhythms, directions, and how we use the postures to stimulate and move that energy. When we look at the hips, we walk through our days in a very forward moving fashion, right? We don't suddenly turn our foot right as the body's going forward. So when we come to the mat and we use our yoga practice to access and create more mobility in the joints of the hips themselves, how we feel from the base of the spine up, which is basically the roots of the spine, how we feel and how aligned we are, how optimally energy is flowing completely shifts. It's very similar to if you've ever had cranial sacral. So cranial sacral is basically dealing a lot with the bridge, loosely speaking, the bridge between the body and the brain, the physical bridge of your neck. When you realign that connective area, right, from how the body is operating to how the brain is receiving things, you can have some subtle adjustments that completely change how you feel. And the same with the pelvis. You can create some subtle movements and slow openings that create a completely different experience for how you feel in your body. And this is why I believe personally that over the years, many people crave the hips and struggle with the hips. Because there comes with this sense of freedom when you get to know your pelvis, right? And the pelvis itself is a very kind of controversial area of the body because it deals with our reproduction organs, our sexuality, our creativity. It deals with any type of energy that enters or exits. So it's often related to money as well, right? How comfortable we are with that relationship of this idea of ebbing and flowing, right? It literally is linked to the element of water in association of the chakra, the second chakra. And when you think about it, it actually makes quite a lot of sense when you walk through, okay, so this is an area I let go of, you excrete things through, you also receive things through. It's the area of life, right? The creative force of life itself. It can be an area of trauma, right? Hopefully not, but it is an area that holds a lot of meaning for each one of us. And so when we create movement in an area that holds a lot of meaning or history, generally speaking, you're going to be left with quite a emotional release slash sense of relief slash new outlook slash more energy than you had before you started to work that area. So that being said, the precursor to this month is a few things. Often I find people are very quick to judge their pelvis and judge their hips as tight or unbalanced, or they cause a lot of because the sensations can get so intense, especially if we do, which we'll do a yin class, and sitting in your hips can be this very euphoric experience of releasing and opening, but it can also bring you quite close to some emotions that you might not expect, and they might arise quite suddenly. And it's not uncommon to feel tearful, to feel vulnerable, to feel quiet when you get into the hips. I often feel like I internalize a bit more when I start to do a lot of hip work. But within that same sentence, I also feel very comfortable in my own skin, right? It's like a dropping into getting to know an area that's quite personal for you. So I'm just going to throw that out there. You might have a blissful hip month with me. But know that if it does bring certain things to light, old issues, old injuries, you might notice very clearly that your right and your left hip feel completely different, which might also bring you to feel, well, why are they so different? What is this imbalance about? And getting more curious is my goal from teaching these classes, is inviting you to get more curious about what you're actually noticing on your mat. So not, judging it, quantifying it, looking for progression even, not looking to succeed, not looking to be strong enough to get through a class with me, but to really notice, what am I feeling at this moment in this practice today? And what does that make me think of? What do I leave the mat with? What kind of insights am I getting about how I'm feeling? So let's see where we go. This is going to be a fluid vinyasa class to start us off. Most of this month is going to be quite fluid, with a couple of classes that are a little bit slower. I'm going to begin seated, so if you guys want to grab any blankets or anything to prop up underneath your bum, making sure that your knees are especially protected as we start to open the hips, then grab them now before we get going. Starting out with your feet together in Baddha Konasana, you're going to have your hands on the underneath side of the ankle, and you're going to push your big toe mounds together, which also lengthens the inner line of your legs, and just start to let your knees flutter up and down. So take a nice full breath in, pour it out your mouth. Good. Move a little faster if you can as you inhale. Maybe exhale out. Anyway, with any sound that feels right as you breathe in again. Maybe stick your tongue out. And just feel the two sides of your pelvis, the sit bones. Keep breathing. Right, does one hip feel lower to the ground than the other? Is one knee sitting higher than the other? Is the inner hip maybe tighter on one side, looser on the other? Okay, so just observing as we start. Big breath in, shoulders are relaxed down, and exhale it out. Good, you're going to inhale, lift your chest. Draw your elbows lightly to the insides of your thighs and look forward. So you're going to breathe in again. Drawing your shoulders away from your ears, drop your forehead down, but keep the crown of the head extending. So you're not curling in, you're extending forward as you inhale. And then just add a little extra pressure on the legs. Big toe mounts still pressing in to lengthen and engage the outer area of the body as well. So we're not just going into flexibility as you breathe in and exhale out. Good. Drawing yourself up, keeping that nice long spine. You're going to take your left foot, turn it out to about 10 o'clock, and take your right hand out to the side. So you're going to press your left hand onto the thigh and rotate your chest towards that right hand. So away from the leg, you're putting your foot straight down, and you're just twisting out of that hip itself. So big breath in. Exhale out. You might lower onto your elbow, keep pressing. Creating space on the inner hip. So you might feel this acutely, right? It might not feel like that much for you depending on your specific flexibility. And we're all built differently, right? The genetics that we were given often will play a role in your composition. So as you draw yourself up, good, draw your feet back together. Take a big breath in, inhale, and flutter through your mouth. Moving to the other side, take the right foot, turn it to about 2 o'clock. So first just start with taking your left hand onto the floor, right hand onto your thigh, pressing the thigh itself, kind of up the thigh bone, and then exhale, turning towards that left hand. Big breath in. You might feel this also through the back body, side waist, right? So breathing into whatever you feel here. You can feel it through the abdomen, right? Giving the internal organs, the intestines specifically, a nice rinse. And then drop onto your forearm and maybe go a little bit deeper for the last 2 breaths. And again, notice how the hip intensity, the sensations that arise, cause any other area. For me, it's often jaw, right? I try and kind of grip through all of that stuff that might come out. Inhale, rise. Take your feet back together. Good. Inhale, sit up nice and tall. This time, let your chest come forward without your elbows on your legs. And I want you to walk your fingers as far forward as they feel comfortable walking. Try to keep your shoulders from overcrowding the neck. Take a big breath in. And exhale, bow. And again, think about extending forward, not just down. So many people round in, which actually just shortens the length from the front of your diaphragm and kind of collapses the lungs. So forward folds have an art to them, breathing in and out. I also want you to track loosely with your attention for the last 2 breaths, the length you feel on both sides of your low back. Is there one side that you feel you're leaning to, one side that is tighter? Last breath. Good. Walking your fingers up to come back upright through your torso. Close your knees together. And let's come towards a kneeling position on all fours. Let's do a double kind of twofold effect here. Let's get the wrists a little bit of length and love. Turning your hands back. Now, if your wrists are in general quite tight, turn the hands out slightly. So you're going to extend that left leg back. Big breath in. Good. Exhale, take the toes down to the floor and press back through the heel. So I want you to tuck your tailbone to your back heel as well until you feel this all the way up the back of the left leg, especially through the calf, I find. So big breath in. Exhale out. Noticing your shoulders, feeling them even in space. And then you're going to inhale, lift that left foot off the floor, and exhale, externally rotate and try and tap your left outer arm. So extend the leg back, pull your belly in, so don't let your back bend kind of happen. Exhale, left knee to outer left arm. One more time. So inhale, extend. Looking forward with your gaze. Exhale, tap as high as you can, and then take your knees together. You're going to untuck your feet, sit back on your heels if your knees and your ankles are okay with this, and lean even beyond the feet. So now you're getting a nice long stretch through the top of your ankles, likely across the top of your thighs. You can even lift your seat and tuck your tailbone forward. Big breath in. You can lean even further back. Good, coming to the other side. So you decide how far back you rotate your wrists. Right leg extends on the inhale, and you take the toes down. Now watch that you're extending from the inner foot. So many people externally rotate, which makes your ankle longer on one side and shorter and weaker on another. That's why a lot of people end up rolling their ankles or losing their balance with age. So as you breathe in, pull your ribs up, guide that tailbone to your back heel. Take one more breath. And again, try and notice that your neck is long here. Don't just collapse the head down. And then float that right leg up. Bend the knee and tap as high as you can on the right arm. So inhale, extend, nice and smooth with your breath. Think often like spreading butter. And you can tuck the opposite toes, right? I kind of lean into using balance or challenging my balance. And as you extend that right leg back, last time, tuck and tap the outer right arm. And then you're going to take your feet side by side again, and this time fold yourself as closely as you can. You can even lean behind and get your heels right in, into child's pose. So you're going to feel the front crease of your hips, and you can just take 3 breaths here. Just preparing, settling, observing, and kind of guiding your attention to the right and the left, to the physical bowl of your pelvis. Good, and as you extend your arms forward, you're going to spread your fingers one at a time, splay them out nice and wide, and then come all the way forward into your first downward facing dog. So as you lift your hips up and back, right, you can pedal your feet out. And we're going to start to just take some longer ujjayi breaths before we really begin our flow. Activating the inner lines of the arms and legs. So you want to nudge your heels slightly wider. Pull your kneecaps up your legs by bringing the tailbone to the ceiling and engaging the thighs by pressing your feet down, lifting your knees up. Take 2 more breaths here. And just breathe and be. Good. Inhale, look forward as you breathe in. Bend your knees almost to the floor. And when you're ready, step forward one at a time. Let's begin with feet hips distance as you lift and lengthen. Exhale, fold, drop your head down. You're going to sink right into your chair pose. So as you sweep your arms forward or wide, your choice. Good. Exhale, forward fold, and pour yourself. Forehead towards the shins, crown of the head towards the big toes. You can do that a few times. Inhale, hands can stay wide to start. Exhale, interlace the opposite thumb on top. Staying nice and steady in your feet. Lift your gaze to your hands. Exhale, switch. Now it's the right thumb on top for me. Inhale, chair pose. Spread your fingers wide. Exhale, left thumb on top. Good. Let's come to our chair pose. Inhale. Exhale. Hands come to the middle of the chest. Now I want you to sink even lower so you can really feel your hips starting to build into intensity. Heat. Your legs are starting to fire up. Take a big breath in. And lower down as low as you can without your knees tracking off center. So it's like you're loading a spring. And then inhale, reach up and out. Feel free to go as wide as it is, that it feels good for your back body. And exhale, fold in and down. Okay, lift up and lengthen. Step your right leg back. Now you're going to push your heel back as you send your left knee forward. Breathe in. Set your palms down and circle that left leg open. So as high as you can, breathe in. And you're going to tap the right elbow, so under and across. You can do that 2 more times. So inhale. And I really like to flex this top foot. Exhale. Lifting your gaze is that extra oomph. Inhale, take your time. Exhale, under and across. Tap the outer left arm. Good. And you're going to take your foot right to the center of the mat. Turn your back foot on an angle and come up for warrior 1. So what this does is not only challenge the torso to turn and therefore the hips to realign. The back hip is going to get a really deep opening in the front of the psoas itself. You can add on if you'd like by lifting your heel, and then I want you to take your hands, interlacing the last 3 fingers, and focus here. So 3 breaths. Left side of your navel, you're going to draw back, and you're just going to soften into this. Good, 1 more breath. Sink your front heel down, lift your gaze, open your arms wide. Now when your fingers touch down, spin onto your back toes, and you can turn your feet to the left side of the mat. Now instead of reaching that left arm up and kind of coming into a side plank position, I want you to drop onto your right forearm. Okay, keep lifting your hips up. This is where it's easy to kind of drop and lose the integrity in your hip work. Press your left hand into your thigh and press your heart forward. Okay, if this is too much, walk your left foot a little further back. So you're lifting your hips as much as you can, right? You can feel this, likely. And you can look forward, or you can look to the side or up. If, generally speaking, your neck is starting to feel like it's not safe or comfortable, looking down is a safe bet. Just find your gaze steady. Shoulders move away from your neck and breathe here. 2 more breaths. Good, 1 more breath here. Now I'm going to lift my hips slightly as I take my left hand down, right hand, turn my feet forward, step back and move through vinyasa. So you may already feel different in the left and the right hip. Grip with your mat as you find your downward facing dog. Okay, tuck your chin in, feel the creases of your hips move back, and then create space around your neck. Let's take 3 breaths. Can you breathe as wide as the outer edges of your body? And then can you breathe even wider? Walking your feet together, you're going to lift up onto your tiptoes, bend your knees almost to the mat, and hop hips distance, right into your chair pose. Inhale, reach up, so starting to speed up just slightly. Once we get the gist, left thumb on top. Inhale, chair. Exhale, right thumb on top. Increase your breath. Left thumb. Right thumb. Good. Inhale to chair pose. Hands to the middle of the chest. Now again, you're going to move your seat back. You can feel this. Lower down. Take a breath in. Spread your toes, sit even deeper. Good. Inhale wide, maybe a back bend. Open your arms. Exhale, fold over your legs. Inhale, press your sternum forward. Good, take your left leg back. Now as you're pushing your heel back, try and send your right knee forward and plant your palms, right leg back and up. So stack open your hip. Exhale, tap your outer left elbow. 2 more times, nice and slow with control, and focus your breath. 1 more time. Good, tap the outer right arm. And exhale, step between your hands. Jump that back foot on an angle. Wait to come up for your inhale to warrior 1. Right away, interlace the last 3 fingers. Tip to your right toes. 3 breaths here. So you're really trying to lift the lower belly, which tilts the tailbone forward and increases what you're feeling. 2 more big breaths. Lengthen out through that back heel. Last inhale. Exhale, sink your front heel. Take a big breath, look up. Open your arms. Set your hands down, lift your back heel. You might lengthen your stance like I did. Turn both feet to the right, and then slowly lower onto your left elbow. The shoulder, work it down your back. You can lean into your right thigh and lift your hips here. Breathe for 5. So you will feel, right, a lot of work, a lot of sparking up. You can even lift higher if you're not feeling much. 3 more. Try and relax what's happening in your mouth, your back of your throat, your forehead. Peel both shoulders onto the back body as you open your gaze.
Looking down, place your hands first and then step to your plank as you breathe in and move through your vinyasa. So it doesn't need to be rushed. Push your heels back. Exhale, downward facing dog. Good. Let's turn our feet to the left side of the mat. Both of them, heel to toe. Bend your knees and really press your chest back to your legs before you straighten them. So I've got my toes lifted off the mat. If you feel okay with having your ankles kind of lengthening on one side, you can take your toes down. If not, just try and keep your ankle nice and protected. Flip your toes up, but you're pushing that left thigh back. You probably feel this on the outer left hip. Good. Spin your feet to face forward. And then over to the right side. So breathing steadily. You're going to bend your knees. And why this is so great, these long holds, is because we get more blood flowing, right? We have to really work to be here. We're not just moving to a different shape. So as you either take your toes up or put your feet into the mat, right, you're leaning that right hip back. One more breath here. Good. Flipping your toes to face forward. Good. In downward dog, take a big breath in. Clear it out your mouth. Walk your feet together. Bend your knees wide. Now we're going to try and take a couple of kicks. Before I do, though, I'm going to demonstrate. And what I want you to focus on is looking forward and tucking your heels as close to your butt as you can get. So as we come down, that's an inhale. Looking forward, little kick. It doesn't need to be anywhere near handstand. Little kick. The point is that you've got a lot of that spring-like action in your legs. One more time. And you're pulling your heels into your groin. Now this time you can jump forward, right? Or a step, up to you. Lift up halfway. Exhale, fold. Right into your chair pose. So as you come up, this time we're going to take our hands and I'm going to move back slightly to have more room with the wall. You're going to let your left foot stay heavy. Inhale your right leg up, out to the side and back behind you. Let's do that 2 more times, just mobilizing the hip itself. And again, this might challenge your balance from day to day. One moment you feel really steady and the next day you feel really wobbly. You're going to take the right ankle onto the thigh and instead of sinking too deep, you're just going to drop your right knee down. Now you will probably feel this inside kind of aspect, not even of the groin's a little further down. It's this lengthening of the tendon that runs along the inner right leg. You can flex your foot, you can deepen the sensation by sinking. You're going to take 2 more breaths. Often the hip likes to bump left. Try and pull it to the midline. 1 more inhale. Good, we're going to challenge ourselves here. Reach the arms wide. Start to lower down. Now, if your knee has any grief, I want you to slide your foot down so you're not accelerating any pressure or anything around the kneecap itself. You're going to take the hands down and then send the right leg up. Look forward and exhale, nose and knee. 2 more times. Look forward. Exhale, knee and nose. 1 more time. Exhale. Good. Inhale, extend the right leg back. Now when you step back, you're going to roll all the way to the back foot, turning to the back of the mat. I'm going to bump my left foot back and drop my knee down. Okay, so we're really pulling in different directions, more length and space with these movements. You're going to walk your right foot a little wider. You're going to keep your left toes tucked, and you're going to walk your right hand a little wider. You're going to drop your chest down and then to rotate. Right, so a twist is often more about the spine. This is about dropping into your hips and then twisting. Okay, if you really want to add that right arm reaching for the ankle, there's kind of this false idea though that it's a deeper variation. Sometimes staying in that movement before and really getting into it is actually going to end up serving you further. So as you press your pelvis down, press your heart forward, relax the tendency to grip the butt, and then twist. 3 more breaths. Try not to overgrip the shoulders. Good, 1 more breath. So I'm not kind of forcing myself too deep. Big inhale. let out some sound. I'm going to push into my right thigh, make sure my knee is pretty much over my front foot, lift out of that, and walk to the front of my mat. I'm going to set my hands, circle that back leg on up, and here we go. You're tapping the outer left elbow, and you can stay here or play with extending your heel forward. Okay, so it does not need to happen if you're like, good God, that's too much for my hamstring. You can stack open, just like we did the other side. Instead of crossing under, you're going to externally rotate from your heel, push from the inside of your foot. Okay, lift your chest. One more time. Exhale, tap, extend. Inhale, extend the leg back and up. And you're stepping back to your warrior one. Middle of the mat. Jump your back foot in if you need. Rise, interlace your fingers, and lift onto your toes. Wrap the right hip forward. Slow your breathing for 3. 2. Slow it all down. 1. Drop your heel. Lift your gaze. Exhale. This is where we're going to go into the fallen warrior version. So you can take your hands to the right or reach your left arm around behind you. Now here's a couple of variations that start to feel very different once you refine them. Press your heart forward, then reach to grab the wrist or the fingers, whatever you can connect with. Press your heart forward, hug your hips right. So you're not rounding down, you're going forward. Breathe for 3. Relax your jaw. Right, back leg is bent slightly. 2. Take your time, last one. Okay, you're gonna place your hands down. Now this is optional. Left leg reaches back and up. You can stay here, shake it out, circle it, or you're gonna let yourself flip onto your right toes. You can look forward and go into wild thing. Inhale, open your chest. Right, you can extend your arm. Choose an option and stay with it for 3 breaths. Imagine the back of your head opening the front of your chest and your tailbone lifting to the ceiling to protect your lower back. Take one more breath in. Okay, anchor your gaze on the inhale. Find your left hand on the mat first. Plank pose. Breathe in, pull your tailbone up to lengthen your back and move through. Exhale, downward facing dog. Okay, tuck your chin in, anchor your breath, 3 Ujjayi breaths. Opening your gaze, walk your toes together. And again, these hops are not about getting somewhere. They're about building a different type of movement in the body, a comfort level with it. Knees wide, breathe in. Hop. Heels tuck in. Inhale right away. Grip the mat. You're looking forward the whole time. One more time. Whew, got a little tired there. Step forward, hop forward, lift up. Side out. Right into chair pose. Right, so keep your breath strong, right? We're still layering. Left knee lifts up. And you can practice. You can practice moving slower. And you can practice getting a bit more fiery, going deeper with the movement, listening to the feedback your system is giving you. Do you need less? Do you need more today? As you draw your knee out in front of you, you're going to slide your ankle just above the knee. And then again, instead of sinking down right away, press that left femur to the floor and feel this opening in the front of the hip. Breathe in and out. Create almost this lift in the back of the throat by letting the roof of your mouth go up even as you go down, and open your arms wide. See how far down you feel comfortable, and then again, slide your foot down or take your hands down, circle that left leg up, look forward, exhale, nose and knee. Okay, so 2 more times. Rely not so much on the hands, but the standing leg. Awesome, last one. Extend that left leg out, keep strong in your core. Step back and then slowly pivot to the back of the mat. You can set your right knee down, walk your front foot a little wider. Keep your back toes tucked. Super important, very different because it keeps the active quality in the front of the leg. Press your pelvis forward, right? So you already feel the psoas there. Right hand comes wide to keep that sense of space. Left hand on your thigh and rotate. It's quite a deeper twist. It's lower down in the pelvis. Relax your shoulders, breathe here. And again, I'm not going to stop you if you really want to grab the top of the right ankle, but try these small, subtle differences to observe if you've been kind of missing or sidestepping certain areas. And also, it's a great practice to not get so kind of set in one way of practice. It took me a lot of years to learn that, right? Just because you know what you like and what your body feels good with doesn't mean those are the only postures you practice. 2 more breaths. Good. Last one. Really breathe in. Fire it out your mouth. Good. Inhale. Take your hands in. Shore your left hip back, right hip forward. Lift your back knee off the floor. Walk your hands in. Plant the palms. Right leg back and up. Now you choose either just tap or extend the leg, a little bit less space on this side. So bend the leg, claw the mat to really help you with your upper body strength to stay balanced here. Exhale, tap, extend. 2 more times. And over time, you won't have to kind of struggle as much. The breath will fill the whole movement. So if at first you feel out of breath, it's just practice. Right leg back and up. Warrior 1. Turn your back heel, rise. Settle in, slow your breath, lift your right heel. Good, 1 more breath here. Sink into whatever it is that you're feeling. Sink your heel, lift your gaze. Open your arms wide. Now we're going to take both hands on the inside of our right foot. Wiggle the right hip back. Take the chest forward and then drop the elbow down. You might not be very comfortable in the shoulders to reach behind your back, but if you are, right, gather the opposite wrist and keep extending your chest forward for 4. Okay, often people kind of sit in this funky chicken zone. Draw your left hip forward, lift your right arm up into the thigh, and really breathe in that right hip. If it's easy, right, chances are you're fudging somewhere. Slow, steady last 2 breaths. Last one. Okay, so as you come out, slowly set your hands, lift your back heel. Right leg can either lift and do circles, or you're gonna lift onto your left toes and flip your dog slowly. Breathe and rotate your pelvis open. Watch that left elbow isn't locked. 3 breaths. Good, last one. Look to the mat. Bring your right hand in line with the left hand. Step to plank pose as you inhale, lift your gaze, and move through. Exhale. Downward facing dog. Tuck your chin in right away. Close your eyes. Center in your breath. 3 Ujjayi cycles. Good. As you inhale, open your eyes. You're going to bend your knees. Turn your feet to the left, feet together this time, and sink your knees to the left side of the mat. So it feels a little funny. Again, this idea of kind of a springboard. Inhale forward, shoulders over your wrist. Turn your feet to the right. Exhale, move your hips back. Inhale forward, pivot. Exhale, hips back. Inhale forward, feet to the right. Exhale. One more time each side. Do the best you can to keep the legs hugging in, the feet together. Shoulders never really go further than the wrists. Good. When you come forward, turn yourself onto your toes, bend your knees wide, and hop to your seat. Good. So here we go a little deeper into forward folds into the hips. I want you to take your left leg forward. Place your foot on the floor, not too close, right? Enough for you to lean back and slide your right foot on top. So it's very similar to what you did in your chair pose. You're gonna let your knee kind of press forward as well, same thing as we did in chair. And you're gonna keep your heart lifting up as you walk your chest forward. Okay, now you can see that most people will be challenged with lifting out of their mid-back. If this is you, I'd rather have your hands further and your chest beaming forward. Okay, breathe. 3 breaths. So now we're gonna take the heat and the breath that we've warmed up with us into a few deeper floor variations before we close. So one more breath in. Okay, with a lot of awareness of your knees, you're gonna walk your right foot over to the left. Keep this right thigh pressing forward. So it's not exactly stacking your shins. And press, it's more like a very close crossed X. And press your right thigh down. I don't even really need to move forward. What I'm doing is pressing both thighs to the floor so I can feel these certain rotations happening in the joint itself. If you want to go further, I'm going to ask you to come upright. There should be no pain in the knees. If you want to pad either one, feel free. You're going to take your right hand to your right foot, right hand, right foot, and spin. Now, as you spin to the left, I want you to feel if your spine went off center. So I'm holding my foot, lifting my chest, and I'm trying to stay really balanced between my right and left sit bone. So I'm going to do this for 3 breaths. Slow your breathing down, but keep the intensity of your focus. Exhale, twist. Now I'm going to turn all the way over to the right, still maintaining this very centered spinal column. Good. Now I'm going to turn back to the left, same side. I'm going to keep my left thigh pressing down. I'm going to ground my right foot, and then I'm going to do a very similar movement that we began with. Now you might be able to move your foot closer and press away from your thigh. If that doesn't happen, I just want you to press your knee away and roll your chest in. 3 breaths. Very deep kind of rinse to the outer hip itself. You will feel some new sensations, I'm sure, this month. Right, and that's a good thing. What it does is kind of relieve these areas that are dense and thereby limiting our entire range of motion in other areas of the body. Last one. Let it spill out. Beautiful. Come all the way upright. You can walk your hands in. And I'd like you to slide your right foot out in front of the left and just move through a vinyasa. You can step or hop if that's your jam. Breathe in. Lower to the floor if you need. Downward facing. Good. Here, just pedal your feet. Bend one knee at a time. Let it feel really kind of honey-like texture in your hip. There might be a few little areas that are still a little crunchy, but in general, you feel a lot more fluid. Good. Inhale, lift your heels, bend, and hop to your seat. Other side, right foot's gonna come not too close, but a foot away from your right sit bone. You're gonna lean back and help your ankle cross over your thigh. Fingers facing the back. Now, one thing you can do is always kind of work a few elements at the same time. So I didn't instruct this the first side, but if you sink into your hands, that's one thing. If you want to strengthen your wrists, come onto your fingertips. Merge your shoulders on your back, right? If this is too close, obviously, walk your hands further, right? But if you're really going full tilt, sit your heart high, press your thigh bone forward, mind your knee by flexing your left toes, and lift your heart. You can even get gutsy and go full tilt, lifting your gaze. Shoulders on the back, right? But your breath is the most important thing. So many times
Part of the work as yoga is actually pulling ourselves back in different aspects of ourselves, right? Learning how to shore up and create healthier boundaries for our bodies, for our breath, right? 2 more. Even for the way our focus is extended, boundaries for our focus, right? 1 more inhale. Out the mouth. Ooh. Walking that right foot over to the left. Activating the toes, so keeping the ankle nice and flexed to protect the knee again. And then creating that really close crossed position with the shins. Now again, feel free to lean back if your knee's up here and it's really tense already, stay here. If you want to add on, my sit bones feel like rods going straight down right now. And I make sure that my knees are okay with this before I add the twist. Left hand to left foot. 3 breaths over the right shoulder. Last one, what can you drop with the exhale? As you rotate over to the left, take an inhale and release. Good, now this is only if you're ready to move a little further. Slide that left foot onto the floor, lift the knee up, and then start to use your hands to twist towards that back of the mat. Your right hand can press away. You might not even need the hand, but for me, I really like that extra kind of oomph of opening that space in the left hip. And then keep twisting as far as it feels good. Make sure your chest is leading. Your shoulders are still down your back. 3 more breaths here. Good, 1 more breath. Let it spill out your mouth. Walk yourself gently, like you're helping someone else, all the way back up. Unravel that left foot to go in front of your shin. Prepare your hands. Step or jump your way into plank pose. Big breath in. And lower. Move through, widening your collarbones. You can stay here for a moment. Look over the left shoulder as far as you can. Inhale back to center. Look over the right. Make sure you're gripping with your fingertips, not just dumping in your wrists. Inhale, look forward, press your heels back. Exhale, downward facing dog. Now I want you to walk your hands towards your feet. Good, walk your feet together unless you have any issues with your hips or your ankle is unstable somewhat. If you have ankle instability and rolled your ankles, keep your feet hips distance. You're gonna look forward. I, again, always encourage you guys to find the extra movements or adjustments that you really like. Move your ribs down your thighs if you'd like. Grab your calves or ankles, pull up to close, and I want you to splay your toes as wide as you can as you lean forward and bow in. This is going very high up in the strands of the hamstrings. And just let the weight of the head release all sides of the neck. So this is a very active, involved posture. Obviously, you don't want to kind of fall forward, but it's also a very passive and useful kind of yielding to gravity. And just reminding yourself who you are within that structure that is your body. And finding yourself between thoughts. 2 more breaths. Good. And as you take your hands to the floor to lift out of that, I want you to walk your hands forward. A short downward dog. Lift onto your tiptoes as you bend your knees wide, and you're going to hop to your seat. Now we're going to finish in a variation of your choice. You can take either butterfly, right, which is a nice way to close, very releasing and tends to be very relaxing. Or I'm going to offer you upavishta, right? So this is again the first hip class, so don't feel you need to keep choosing kind of more and more and more. So my legs from the socket itself, knees are pointing up, shin bone is pointing straight up, inner feet are pointing out. Okay, as soon as I do that, I also want to make sure that I'm lifting up in the front of my chest. So I've anchored my sit bones. Right, I'm gonna walk my hands forward and I'm gonna activate my legs so my knees are pulling again up the legs. I start to walk forward, but you can see if I wanted to roll forward, I'd be lifting my sit bones. So I'm gonna back up a bit, right? My sit bones are down. I'm gonna lean my torso forward and there's the work, right? So I could use my flexibility to do this pose, but I don't need to, I don't want to, right? Anchor your sit bones, lengthen your spine, activate your legs, big breath in. Let it out your mouth. Now you're gonna find your sweet spot for 5 breaths before we let go of the practice. So let's inhale together. Exhale out the nose. Breathe in. Feel this really even exit down both sides of the nostrils. Inhale like you're breathing up the spine. And out. Breathing down the legs. Breathing through the hands. So as you walk your way slowly out of either butterfly or wide-legged forward fold, feel all that sensation as it releases. Draw your legs in if they're extended. And I want you to find your way onto your back in the middle of your mat with your knees pulling straight into your chest. If you need to adjust, take any hair elastics out. Make sure that you're very kind of comfortable against the mat under you. So just pulling the knees straight in. I'm going to press my hips forward and see how flat I can make my lower back. Whatever else you want to do here for 3 more breaths. Last one. I'm going to squeeze the knees even harder on the in-breath. And exhale, my legs go free. Into Shavasana, I might take the time to lift and open my heart space a little more. Slide the heels further forward, but very little effort. Breathe in. And let your exhale seep out. Just observe the flow of energy you can feel under the surface of your skin, washing through your body. I invite you to really lean in to an internal compass. Let yourself soak for as long as you need. Step out of the mind into what the body's desire, need for rest, need for space. Anything you feel communicated without words, like it's coming through. And when you are ready to transition upwards, take your hands onto your hips for a moment and just breathe some heat through your palms. And bending one leg, letting yourself roll to one side. And take a breath. And finding your way up slowly. Sitting nice and tall, feeling the steadiness in your seat, feeling the presence of your legs. Feeling the connection between you and the ground, you and your posture. And let's honor all that shows up this month, anything that is vulnerable, anything that is freeing, anything that feels limiting, anything that helps us express and release, free of judging. Hands come together at the heart. Let's complete today's practice with an Om. Slide your thumbs to your forehead, have your elbows wide, and think about this nice tall line from tailbone to crown of the head. Breathe in. Out your mouth. Breathing into Om. Namaste. Thank you for joining me. See you soon.